It's time for munching and mating in the Macrocystis, or giant kelp, with your host, Dr. Bill Bushing. One of the best things about my job is that when I go to the office, I don't have to wear a tie with my suit. Wetsuit, that is. In this episode, we will look at another member of the pinnipeds, which include the earless seals, the eared seals, and walruses. Today, our focus is on the harbor seal. The word pinniped means winged or featherfoot, referring to the webbed appendages of its members. There are 33 different living species in the order. However, this is not one of them. But I'm glad they are in our waters too. Harbor seals are members of the earless seal group Phocidae. The more frequently seen California sea lion of circus and zoo fame is a member of the eared seals, Otariidae. Both groups actually possess ears, but the eared seals have visible external flaps. The final members of the order are the walruses in the group Odobenidae. You can also distinguish earless seals like the harbor seal from the California sea lion by the arrangement of the hind limbs. The phocids have hind flippers that are angled towards the rear and cannot be rotated forward and under the body. They must crawl or lumber like inchworms to move on land. Sea lions have flexible hind flippers that can rotate, allowing them to walk on land using all four appendages. Sea lions also tend to be more social and more vocal than the harbor seal. It is interesting to note that eared and earless seals are actually not closely related in an evolutionary sense. They appear to be an example of convergent evolution where similar body forms and general behavior have evolved from different ancestral stock. Earless seals like the harbor seal are believed to have evolved from animals similar to otters, while the eared seals, including the sea lion, originated from ancestors of dogs and bears. See the resemblance? Both ancestors are believed to have originated on land, with their descendants adapting to aquatic environments. The earliest known fossils of seals in California are from the Miocene, about 22.5 million years ago. A few years before Dr. Bill was born. Harbor seals may be light or dark brown, tan, gray, or even black in color. Those with lighter fur color tend to have black spots with pale rings around them. Those with darker coats have black spots surrounded by white rings. The pattern of spots on each individual is unique and results from differing concentrations of black pigmented cells known as melanocytes. These patterns can be used by researchers to identify individuals. The color of the coat also depends on how recently they have molted and how wet the fur is. These seals also show a slight tendency towards countershading, with the dorsal surface being somewhat darker than the ventral surface. They keep their skin moist, using oily or waxy secretions from their sebaceous glands in the neck. And of course, under the skin, they carry their own wetsuit, thick layers of subcutaneous fat. Harbor seals show very little sexual dimorphism. Males and females look essentially alike and are fairly similar in size, although males do tend to be larger. Adult males may be up to 6.3 feet, or 1.9 meters, and nearly 375 pounds, or 170 kilograms. while females get no larger than 5 feet 7 inches, or 1.7 meters, and 320 pounds, or 145 kilograms. There is some variation in body size throughout their geographic range. For example, individuals in Alaska and the western Pacific are generally larger than those in the Atlantic. Looking at the head, one can see that the ears are simply holes with no external structure. The eyes are fairly large, which facilitates finding food at darker depths. The nostrils have a distinct V shape to them. The inability to rotate the hind flippers under the body is one restriction on their movement in the terrestrial environment. Another is the relatively short length of the forelimbs, also referred to as the pectoral flippers. They are mostly used for scratching, grooming, and defense. You can see the individual digits or fingers here. The hind flippers are effective in the water for propulsion by moving from side to side. As noted earlier, the harbor seal is the most widely distributed species of pinniped and has a very broad geographic distribution in Arctic, subarctic, and temperate coastal waters in the northern hemisphere. In the western North Atlantic, they can be found from the Canadian Arctic to New York, while in the eastern Atlantic they may be found from northern France through southern Scandinavia and into Russian waters. In the Pacific, they are known from Hokkaido, Japan, across the Aleutian Islands, and into the southern Bering Sea and Gulf of Alaska, then south along the west coast of North America to San Ignacio Lagoon in Baja California, Mexico. They also occupy perhaps the broadest range of habitats and are found in marine, estuarine, and freshwater bodies of water. In general, this species is considered to be non-migratory, although there has been some long-distance movement observed, but mostly in juveniles. They do exhibit geographic variation in body size, coat color, timing of births, and cranial morphology. The harbor seal is known scientifically as Phoca vitulina, and was first named and described in 1758 by Linnaeus, who created the scientific naming system we use today. It is also known as the common seal because, well, it is the most commonly encountered seal in the world. I was surprised to find reported estimates of its global population ranged from 300,000 to 6 million. I think an estimate of 500 to 600,000 worldwide and about 35,000 in California may be accurate. Because this species does not migrate or move very far from their established breeding areas, there's not a great deal of interbreeding. Therefore, genetic variation between different geographic populations may arise. For example, DNA studies have shown differences between harbor seal populations in Japan and southeast Alaska that are correlated with increasing distance. 5 unique subspecies have been identified in harbor seals. These are located along the eastern North American coast, in freshwater in eastern Canada, in Europe and Western Asia, along the East Asian coast, and in western North America. Harbor seals are active carnivores. No seaweed salads for them. Because they have a higher resting metabolism than land mammals of similar size, they may eat 5 to 6% of their body weight each day, or about 10 to 18 pounds, or 4.5 to 8.2 kilograms of food. Their diet is quite varied, and they are generally opportunistic feeders, eating whatever is readily available rather than being highly selective specialists. Therefore, their diet may vary both regionally and seasonally. Fish are the primary prey items and include codfish, hake, mackerel, anchovies, flounder, and sculpin. They will also eat octopus, squid, shelled mollusks like mussels and whelk, and crustaceans including crabs and shrimp. The youngsters usually feed mostly on crustaceans such as shrimp and crab, which are generally easier for them to catch. Food is usually torn apart and the chunks swallowed whole rather than being chewed. The seal's molars are used to crush the mollusk shells and crustaceans. Predators include killer whales, great white sharks, and polar bears, in the Arctic and subarctic regions, of course. These pinnipeds forage fairly close to shore in relatively shallow water and rarely more than 30 miles or 50 kilometers from their traditional haul-out sites. The average depth of a dive may be about 300 feet or 91 meters and last a few minutes, but they are known to dive as deep as 1,500 feet or 457 meters for as long as 30 to 40 minutes. Like other pinnipeds, harbor seals are well adapted physically to diving. The lack of external ear flaps reduces resistance, and the narrow nostrils close easily when descending. Their rear flippers are long and flat and provide good propulsion. Physiologically, their heart rate slows when submerged. There seems to be some dispute over how social this species is. Some say they are usually solitary or found in small groups, which is consistent with my observations here on Catalina Island. However, others suggest they are quite gregarious and do form larger groups. To some extent, this may be explained by the habitat they are observed in. Along rocky shores like those of my island, groups tend to be smaller, whereas on sandy beaches like the one at the children's pool in La Jolla, California, they may form much larger groups. Although harbor seals may spend several days at sea when feeding, they remain fairly close to and return to their habitual hauling out sites. It is believed these locations are chosen based on their protection from land-based predators, access to deeper water where they can feed, and protection from extreme wind and waves. When they haul out, it is generally to rest, regulate their body temperature, seek protection from marine predators, give birth, or to molt their fur. Sources have reported that groups of 500 to several thousand may use the same hauling grounds if they are adequate for such large numbers. In less ideal locations, groups may be much smaller. Despite the large size of some of these groups, there appears to be relatively little social organization as seen in some other pinnipeds. One reason for the appearance of larger groups may be to increase awareness of potential land-based predators. In general, these mammals are fairly quiet when hauled out, unlike the more vocal sea lions or the elephant seal. This may reduce the chance of predators locating them. Although some have stated that harbor seals exhibit a rich social life when hauled out, this seems to be based mainly on play activity that does occur then. Other than that, they exhibit a fairly low level of interaction, and much of it is hostile. It has been reported that individuals maintain a personal space of about half a yard between one another. If another seal approaches too closely, aggressive behavior may ensue. This can include growling, snorting, head thrusts, waving flippers, or even actual fighting. Pupping occurs each year either on shore or in the adjacent shallow waters to avoid predators. The timing is dependent on geographic location. It may occur as early as February in the warmer, lower latitudes, such as off Baja California, Mexico, but as late as July in subarctic regions. In California, it occurs between February and April. Females almost always deliver a single pup, although twins are occasionally reported. Delivery is quick, usually within 4 minutes of noticeable contractions. Newborn pups are 28 to 40 inches long, or 70 to 100 centimeters, and weigh 18 to 26 pounds, or 8 to 12 kilograms. The mothers are generally intolerant of males and other juveniles when pupping. The mother and pup bond within the first hour or so through nursing. Pups have a distinctive bleating distress call that sounds a little like a calf. There are highly developed sebaceous glands in the neck region, which some scientists believe emit an odor that may play a role in bonding and social behavior. In the womb, the young pup has a fine downy white fur called the lanugo. This is usually molted before birth, resulting in a coat that has texture similar to that of the adults. It allows them to be comfortable in the water shortly after birth. However, some pups may not molt their lanugo coat until after birth. A true adult coat usually develops by the end of the first summer. The young are born already well developed. Unlike elephant seal pups, the young harbor seal can swim almost immediately after birth and may begin diving within hours. The mother stays with the pups when they enter the water, and the pups have a strong instinct to follow the mother. Very young pups may ride on the mother's back. Within just a few days, the pups can dive for up to 2 minutes. Nursing lasts about 3 to 4 weeks, with the average being about 24 days. The pup can gain over a pound a day, thanks to the rich milk, which may be 60% fat. The mother may fast during the first half of the nursing period, but then may make short feeding trips to sustain her strength. On occasion, the pup may accompany the mother if the dives are nearby and reasonably shallow, although they usually do not descend the full depth or stay under as long. The pups do not actually begin foraging for themselves until after they are weaned and become independent within 4 to 6 weeks. Pups are highly susceptible to both disease and stress, and pup mortality may be high when food is limited. One source stated that the lifespan of a harbor seal is unknown, but most indicate a lifespan of 20 to 25 years for males and 25 to over 30 for females. No social security for either of them. Mating activity usually starts about 6 weeks after pupping, when the young are independent of the mother. It generally occurs during the warmer months and also varies with geographic location. Females are a bit precocious, becoming sexually mature between 2 and 5 years, while males reach this stage in 4 to 6 years. Unlike elephant seals, there appears to be little social organization related to mating, such as a dominance hierarchy. Some observers have stated that males may compete for females in the water through displays of their aquatic skills and underwater vocalizations, and may also directly compete with other males through actual combat. Some do exhibit neck wounds, indicating this occurs. One source reported that males may lose as much as 25% of their body weight during breeding season. Mating takes place primarily in the water, which is typical of many other seals. Some stated mating was monogamous, with a single pairing, while others suggest it may be polygamous, with the males seeking several females. Pregnancy rates are said to be as high as 85%. The gestation period has been variously reported as 8 to 11 months, most likely due to the fact that the harbor seal's egg is not implanted immediately after fertilization. The delay in implantation may be 1.5 to 3 months, with an actual gestation period of 8 to 9 months. This results in pupping about 10.5 to 11 months later. Harbor seals molt or shed their fur coats on an annual basis during the warmer months, usually about 2 to 3 months after pupping. During this period, they remain primarily on land until the new coat develops, so they can conserve heat and avoid excess loss in the cooler waters. This may take 4 to 5 weeks. The pups are the first to undergo the molt, followed by the adult females, and then the adult males. Although the global harbor seal population has been increasing since 1970 and seems to be healthy, there are still both general and localized threats to them. Regional populations that appear threatened include the ones in Greenland, Hokkaido, Japan, and the Baltic region. Numbers in the Aleutian Islands and Gulf of Alaska also appear to be declining, along with those of the stellar sea lions and northern fur seals. Non-regional threats may include incidental catch in fishing gear such as gill nets, trawls, purse seines, salmon weirs, and even impact by boats of all kinds. However, these deaths are estimated to be less than 900 per year. Oil and hydrocarbon contamination in their body tissues can be significant. Other chemical threats include organochlorine molecules such as PCBs and DDT. These can affect their immune systems, reproduction, and increase pup mortality. Hunting of harbor seals still takes place in Greenland, Ireland, and Norway. Alaskan natives also conduct subsistence hunting for them. They are targeted primarily for their skins, meat, and oil. Here in the States, these and other pinnipeds are protected by the Marine Mammal Protection Act of 1972. Stay tuned for future episodes of Dive Dry with Dr. Bill.